Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this beautiful Sunday evening in Nashville, Tennessee. It's lovely to have you guys for another episode of the Prime Time program. We have an abbreviated schedule this week because it is 4th of July week, so we will not be doing shows Thursday, and we will be abbreviated this week, but we do have some quick hitting type of topics that are worth talking about. One in particular that came across my timeline about a number associated with Will Levis that can be pretty misleading, and we're going to dive into that. The highest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes and where Will Levis ranks in that particular stat over the course of this evening's show. Like I said, it's a quick hitting topic, so we're going to keep it moving this evening, but it is worth diving into because I do think that sometimes, like Robert Walsh's exceptionally made cover photo says, numbers can in fact lie when you talk about the quarterback position. So we're going to get into that, and that will be the bulk of our discussion. Only one question for you this evening, and we'll get you on with your Sunday night. Before we start, need you all to share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, wherever you are spending your time here with us. We do appreciate when you spend your time with us. We also appreciate when you share the show and like the video on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You know the drill. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet it. Facebook Live, you can share now to public. And YouTube or Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel while you are there. Let's do it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. Hello. Nice to meet you if you've never been here before. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN. Get up to $100 on your no danger first wager in the Zen Sports app. TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident at TrueMavFitness.com. Get that summer body right at TrueMav. And Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at TwoRiversFord.com. All right. William Jones says the beard is making a comeback. It is until tomorrow when I shave it. So, listen, the facial hair, Randy Howard says, Buck, keep the beard. I can't handle the 18-year-old looking Buck. I would love to look. I don't know if 18. I'd like to look about 20 for the rest of my life. Maybe 30. I don't know. I look pretty good at 30. I'd take, with all the Botox in my forehead, the lasers that they're clearing all my acne scarring off, shout out Canvas Skin, and, shaving from time to time. It's nice to not look like a 45-year-old my entire life the way that it's been. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about your quarterback, and in particular, one stat that caught my attention that I feel to be pretty misleading. So when you talk about Will Levis, one of the first criticisms that people bring up about him, this was as a college prospect coming out of Kentucky. This is after his 9-game sample size as a starter in the NFL. The thing that continues to be talked about around Will Levis, among a variety of different things, but one of the most poignant talking points or bullet points is his accuracy. Will Levis has an incredible arm. Will Levis has an absolute rocket launcher. The question is, how much more fine-tuned can that weapon be as opposed to being a missile? Can we make it a bit more of a sniper rifle? That's kind of the trajectory that the Titans coaching staff need to get him on. And so when you talk about inaccuracies and Will Levis, a lot of times people who are scouting by the box score, which is, of course, the worst possible way to talk about football when you're just looking at numbers on a page without watching the games for context, you can look at Will Levis and think, oh, my God, he was really, really inaccurate based on this stat that I'm going to read to you. In fact, considerably further down the list than Ryan Tannehill, who was about middle of the pack in this particular stat. So numbers are not always the best way to analyze football, though they can give you important context. But when the numbers are taken out of context, sometimes it can get you a little turned around or maybe misconstrue how you view the players and what you believe their trajectory to be. So I'm going to tell you the stat here in just a second. Your Two Rivers Ford take, and the only question that we're going to ask you this evening is this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Will Levis's completion percentage from his rookie season. Big deal, little deal, or no deal. It's your Two Rivers Ford Take. As always, your Two Rivers Ford Take is presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. They have all kinds of great new and certified pre-owned vehicles for you to check out when you go visit the dealership. They always put you in the driver's seat as the customer, and the car buying process is fast, easy, and fun. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. Big deal, little deal, no deal. Will Levis's completion percentage his rookie season. Amar says it's a big deal. We got a variety of different answers here. Katie on Facebook Live, no deal. For Titans Kyle, Matthew Butcher, like I said, Frederick Ross, and Stephen King, they all say little deal. MB says no deal, not by itself, which of course we always appreciate MB because it helps me flesh out the I guess the thought process that I might have with some of these numbers or some of these questions that I ask you. Because by itself, is the completion percentage, because it was under 60% last year. In fact, Will Levis, as a rookie quarterback, completed under 59% of his passes last year, 58.4. Now, when you see that on paper, you make a face like I just did, like you smell something bad. But with the completion percentage, there's a lot of different factors that you have to account for. How many drops are factored into Will Levis's completion percentage? How many hurries are factored into Will Levis's completion percentage, right? There's a couple of different ways to look at this. Now, for those of you saying no deal, I'm going to disagree, because anytime you talk about Will Levis, there are some fine-tuning of the accuracy. Accuracy and ball placement, those are two different things. Accuracy is, can you get it to the general area? Ball placement is, can you put it in the spot where only your receiver can get it, over the back shoulder or over the top of a defensive back, or all the kind of pinpoint accuracy type of throws that you talk about with guys who excel that way, right? Joe Burrow is famously one of the best quarterbacks, not just in accuracy, but in ball placement, that you have to take into account for. So Will Levis's ball placement and his accuracy are less than ideal, but the 58.9 number is the thing that a lot of people get hung up on, and even more so when you narrow it down to a stat like this. I'm going to give you the stat that Warren Sharp put out there here in just a second that I think is in poor context of both Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill's situation. Right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Go to truemathfitness.com. Your first workout is free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated at True Math Fitness. So there's a lot of different numbers that can be used to tell whatever story you are trying to tell, to make whatever point you are trying to make. And if I wanted to take numbers out of context, say I wanted to open up the radio show, there's not shit else to talk about on July 1st. So maybe I want to gas you guys up a little bit. I want to come in with a hot take and say, Will Levis is the, let me count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th, the 9th least accurate quarterback in professional football among qualified quarterbacks who played at least, or who threw at least 175 passes last year. Terrible, awful, garbage, blah, 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 blah. I could do that if I was a hot take artist. Now, I'm not, because I like context and I like nuance and I like how we can work them into sports discussion, because this number that Warren Sharp put out there, the highest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes. Deshaun Watson is at the top of the list, and the highest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes, Deshaun Watson is the least accurate on these, or causing the most incompletions due to his inaccurate passes. And in fact, you have Ryan Tannehill about middle of the pack on this list. So the top 5, and again, this is 175 attempts minimum, Deshaun Watson, the least, or the biggest problem, basically. So from worst to best, Deshaun Watson, Tyrod Taylor, Trevor Siemian, Bryce Young, Lamar Jackson. Those are the 5 players with the highest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes. Deshaun Watson is at the top of the list with 43.9% versus the bottom of the list, which is Geno Smith, who is, we talk about Geno all the time, how much more credit Geno Smith deserves, because only 21.6% of Geno's passes were incompletions due to inaccurate passes. Jake Browning, second to last. Kirk Cousins, third to last. Patrick Mahomes, fourth to last. Russell Wilson, fifth to last. And it doesn't take into account air yards per attempt, right? How far they're trying to push the ball down the field. These could be checkdowns. These could be, these could be 9 routes. These could be outbreaking routes. These are all routes that the quarterbacks are throwing, or all passes that the quarterback are throwing, not given the context of what you need, the routes, and how much of that completion percentage is bullshit because of checkdowns, things like that, and just kind of dinking and dunking. Will is at the bottom of this list. And that is why I think that the completion percentage is not something that you should look at solely. Completion percentage is a number, right? The number should not be gospel. Numbers tend to be a little more hard and fast that way, right? When we think of mathematics, when we think of science, you have to have exact science or exact math to get to the outcome that you're trying to achieve, or the correct outcome that you're trying to achieve. But in football, numbers deserve and require context. So if I give you Will Levis with a 58.9 completion percentage in 2024 or 2023, you would say to me that that's an inaccurate quarterback. But if I tell you that the lowest rate of incompletion, that Will Levis had the 9th lowest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes at 27.4% between Josh Allen, who he was more who he was more accurate than, and Dak Prescott, who was more accurate than Levis, the top of the list, which technically is the bottom, is Dak, Herbert, Goff, Russell, Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Jake Browning, Geno. That is an interesting stat, which allows you to understand a little more context of how often the passes were accurate but not caught. Accurate, but defensed. Accurate, but dropped. All accurate, but it's a sack, right? Or a pressure or a hurry, all these kind of things. This is a good number to kind of hone in on, to marry with completion percentages. Say, okay, Will Levis's overall, the biggest possible umbrella that I can put these numbers under. Will Levis's overall completion percentage is 58.9. But when I boil it down to his passes and his accuracy specifically, and again, they don't determine how they don't outline here how they determine accurate versus inaccurate passes, but it is Warren Sharp's football 2024 football preview, which is always a good resource. They use advanced analytics to kind of forecast the upcoming season. I think there's a lot of different things that you can pull from stuff like that. Football Outsiders Almanac is also a great resource. Anyway, I'm talking too long because we're only supposed to do 10-minute shows this week. Point being, Will Levis, that stat in particular, his completion percentage is pretty misleading. So you have to take into context his performance, his receivers' performance, his offensive line's performance, and the coaching staff for which he played. And that's why I think that particular number, his overall completion percentage, is kind of bullshit. And not kind of bullshit. Yeah, kind of bullshit. Because he's working on a variety of different things. He's shown some inaccuracies throughout the course of the early part of the offseason program, but that's also something to take into consideration. He's working on his footwork. He's trying to be a more refined player at the position, which he's talked about with us earlier this offseason.
No, I mean, quarterbacks are weirdos. We're always tweaking with something. We always feel like something might be off. Like you saw Brady go through a handful of different footworks throughout one season. And just the ball wasn't coming out the way that I would have liked it to. And we just started looking at what could potentially be the cause of it, and just been messing around with things, specifically with my base, that I feel like have gotten me into a good spot.
Charles Coleman says of Will Levis's rookie completion percentage, it's a deal. William Anderson, no deal. Little deal for Chris Young. Caleb Meadows says feet also help with those as well. His footwork, which is something that he continues to work on. So this week is going to be a shorter. The shows are going to be shorter in length. It's the off season and we're only on for 3 days this week. So we appreciate you guys showing up. Like the video on your way out, because we're only going to do the one question tonight. but I did think that that was worth bringing up in the context of what I saw being discussed on the internet today. Radio show, you're not getting a shortened show. 3 hours, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week. Of course, we're off Thursday for the 4th and Friday as a result. So we will flesh this out more tomorrow on the radio show from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. I also have some pretty interesting left tackle stats to talk about. And I have a discussion about the most undervalued or underrated Titan in the last 10 years of Titans football that we'll get into as well. Also, it's July 1st, which means Texas and Oklahoma are officially in the SEC as of tomorrow, which will be an interesting discussion. So Randy Howard says short shows demand a shirtless Bert. No, Bert is licking his wounds and playing World of Warcraft from a bachelor party that he has returned from. So we'll give Bert a break. He's taking his shirt off for me, but you can't see it. Have a great rest of your evening. I will talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!
Bye.